So bizarrely, Electrifying have asked me to review the year 2008. Bit odd, but it was actually quite a memorable year for me. I'd recently finished university, got my first job. I was an equity finance trader in the city. Yeah, UBS were the idiots to employ me. Ironically, it was the same year as the biggest financial crisis, although I don't think they were related.
Nick.
What?
The e2008.
The e2008? Well, that makes a lot more sense. Why didn't someone just say? This is the Peugeot e2008. I'm Nicki Shields and you're watching Electrifying.com. I'm actually really excited about test driving this car. There's been a lot of talk about the Peugeot e2008, and I think, well, instantly you can see it has quite a bold design. It's also pretty ginormous for a small, compact SUV. Perhaps it's having a bit of an identity crisis. We will find out. But I do love the front. So you've kind of got this cat's claw design with the lights, which stands out a lot, and also the intricate design of this front grille, really quite interesting. So if you like bold design, stick with this. Now let's take a look at the rear, because how cool are these? The tail lights, I think they're kind of concept car-esque. I really do like them. And then actually, if you take a little look inside the boot, it's not bad on space. We're talking 434 litres worth, which I think is a decent amount actually. It's about 100 litres more than you get on the e2008 supermini, and it's about the same size as you see in a Kia e-Niro. There's an adjustable boot for stowing cables, and the seat folds flat if you need to store anything a little bit bigger. Okay, so inside, I think you can probably see that there is quite a lot going on in here. You've sort of got this double-decker layered approach to all the internal display information. You've got this massive 10-inch screen, which actually I think is the kind of perfect size. It's the Goldilocks size, not too big, not too small, and it is nice and easy to use. Then you've got the digital display right in front of you, which again is nice and clear. However, then you have this really small steering wheel that's, I feel like it's been squished, and it was a bit weird at first, but now I'm realising I think I understand why, and that's because when I'm driving, if the steering wheel was any bigger and actually, to be honest, in the place where I'd want it to be for driving, the problem with that is my steering wheel cuts right across the digital display. And genuinely, I have been trying out different positions. Let's go a bit higher. Yeah, it's quite high. But again, this cuts across my vision of display. So I then have to move it down, which is weird. Who's going to drive like this? Maybe you would, but I certainly wouldn't. So this is one thing I'm having a real issue with. Do let us know in the comments below if anyone else that has driven the Peugeot 2008 is struggling, because I just can't seem to get comfortable. Entry-level models in the e2008 range get a smaller 7-inch screen here and analog dials, but they all come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The inbuilt navigation system also has a charge point search functionality, which we think is rather neat. Okay, so here's a little tip for you. You do have a USB port on one side, and on the other side you've got a USB-C port. It is actually marked on the car, but I didn't notice this. The USB-C port has a little charging logo above. That means all you can do is charge from that port. It will not sync information from your phone to your car. So don't bother trying to waste your time. The only way you can do that is through the USB port on the right-hand side. And then, of course, you can use, Apple CarPlay and sync up as you would normally. But yeah, don't waste your time with the USB-C. That is there just for charging. Now, thankfully, we've still got a few switches and buttons along for the heating and whatnot. And I quite like this mobile holder that props your phone up at an angle. I think my only really complaint about the interior is that it does actually still feel quite snug for what is actually quite a big car. It feels quite small inside, and that is really because this has still been based on an internal combustion engine car. So, you know what I'm going to say, it means you do not get the flat floor in the back, and you do not get the extra space with the cubby holes in the front. And that's because it hasn't been built as a bespoke electric car like, say, the Volkswagen ID3. And that is a bit of a shame because it does just feel a bit more claustrophobic inside. That said, there's plenty of adjustment on the seats and steering wheel, so unless you're some kind of circus act, you should be able to get comfortable in here. There is more space in the back than you'd find in the smaller e2008 too, mainly because it's more upright. It's still not as big as something like an ID3, but it feels bigger than a Hyundai Kona. Right. Notebooks at the ready, because here are the E2008's important numbers. Now, underneath the floor is a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack, and they drive the front wheels. Now, it's kind of annoying because Peugeot actually quote the overall size of the battery rather than the usual capacity, which is actually 45 kilowatts, but that's exactly the same package which you'd find bolted into lots of Peugeot, Citroens and Vauxhall electric cars and vans. And I think sharing them actually allows them to keep the costs down and also gives better features. So overall, it's a positive. For example, the E2008 can charge at a maximum speed of 100 kilowatts, which is actually really quick for a car of this size. That means it can charge from 10 to 80% on a 150 kilowatt rapid charger in just over 30 minutes. Now, if you're on a slower 50 kilowatt charger, you'll be looking at 45 minutes to reach that same level of charge. On a home wall box, you can charge from empty to full in just over 7 hours. Now, let's talk about range, because the official figure for this car is between 191 and 206 miles. Today, I'm getting around 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour, so that equates to a real world range of around 170 miles. That's okay. I mean, if range is a deal breaker for you, this isn't going to be great. I think something like a Kia e-Niro 64 that can easily do 250 miles is probably going to be more suited. But if the range works for you, and it actually will for the vast majority of drivers, then this is a really lovely car to drive. The tiny steering wheel is interesting. It feels like something you might find on an arcade game. But, you know, other than that, I do really like it. I think it's maybe a little bit light on the steering. I could put a bit more weight into it, but around the corners, it's very tidy. Now, the official 0 to 60 time is 8.5 seconds, but actually I think it feels a bit quicker than that. And if you select sport mode, then the accelerator response is even sharper. Now, obviously, as you know, I have been driving electric cars for a rather long time now, but I still do not tire of that instant acceleration that you get from an electric car. And well, this has it in bucket loads. It really is a lot of fun to drive. Now, if you're looking at the E2008 as a family car, you'll be pleased to know that it comes with a load of safety kit as standard. From active braking to speed sign recognition, the E2008 does its best to keep you out of trouble. But bear in mind that only the top spec cars get all the goodies. So make sure you study the equipment list before signing on the dotted line. Now, the E2008 comes with 3 different driving modes: Sport, which we've already mentioned, Normal and Eco. Now, if you select Eco, quite interestingly, the motor output is cut down to just 83 brake horsepower, which is kind of like the equivalent of an old 1.2 litre petrol engine. But the good news is it doesn't switch off the air conditioning or heating. So if you want a comfortable drive, but still in Eco mode, then you're going to be all right. You also get 2 options for regen, Normal and B mode, but I'm actually not quite sure either hit the mark. I love a bit of regen, but even in B mode, you still have to use the brakes when coasting downhill, which is a bit of a shame because if it had more effect, then I think the range could actually be better. Geez, that's a bit aggressive. Okay, so that alarm is going off because I've put it in park, but I haven't put the parking brake on. Fair enough, I'm all for safety, but that noise is a bit extreme. So there you have it. That is the Peugeot e2008. But before you go making any rash purchasing decisions, we would recommend that you do watch our reviews of the sister cars, such as the Vauxhall Mokka-e and the DS3 Crossback E-Tense. Now also, while we're on the subject of reminders, can I also remind you to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, because we've got something rather exciting coming soon. So switch on those notifications.